In the know, nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Put in the work. We continue to do what you guys have done all season. Come together, prepare, and show up with the confidence to go win a football game. We're going to be just fine. I promise you that. I'm so proud of you guys. I love everybody in this room. Let's get back to work this week and go for number 11. Great job.
Great job, man. Way to stand up, be tough. We talked about toughness last night. Tough times don't last, tough people do, man.
Yes, sir.
Great job. Let's go. Vikes on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Vikes!
Drop the mic.
Can we get, how they have Cameo where you can pay $200 for, I don't know, some B-rate celebrity? Like Rob Kardashian will send you a video from his basement or something. Or Pete Rose. We got Pete Rose for my father-in-law for his last birthday.
That's awesome.
He's a big Pete Rose fan. He got a kick out of it. He kept watching it he's talking to me? Yeah. Can we get something where Kevin O'Connell will just give you the first thing in the morning when you wake up? I believe in you. I love you. Everything's going to be fine. You're not going to have a perfect day, but that's okay. One foot in front of the other. Let's go. Break it down. Vikes on 3.
You're good enough, you're special enough, and darn it, people like you.
I think it was wrestlers. Wrestlers are killing it with that stuff too. I saw Matt Hardy has done a bunch of them where he does it in the broken voice and stuff, and wrestlers, and then a lot of actors doing, yes, happy birthday, Phil. It's amazing.
Great idea.
Sports dad could make a killing. Could make a killing.
I've thought about it. I just have no idea how to do it.
We'll teach you. We'll as long as we get 70% of the profits, we'll teach you.
Okay.
30.
Give me a cut. I'll show you how to do it.
All right, this is Purple Daily Vikings entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And the show is presented in part by our friends over at TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed, an AI-powered 50 megapixel triple camera system. How many more megapixels do you need? Ultra-realistic and true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision and booming sound from the dual speakers. Also, I saw someone stacked a tower of Before I Die Surly cans and sent a picture to us on Twitter yesterday. That was impressive.
Absolutely cool. And during the course of the game, again, on Twitter, appreciate all the people who were at US Bank Stadium who tweeted us pictures of their cans. In fact, it sounds like Before I Die still available on the third level of the stadium. So it's there. The last thing is I tweeted this out on Friday. I said, okay, send me more ideas for Surly's. I got a great one last night. Controlled Chaos. Person said, you got to talk about this.
That's a good one.
Oh, that's a new name for it. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yes. Controlled Chaos is a Surly beer, but I've talked about Furious. I've talked about Before I Die. I've talked about Logic Bomb. So I'm looking for ideas. And this person said, you are missing the boat, Judd. Controlled Chaos is fantastic. The story here, all Surly brewing products are great, but it's a deep roster, a deep team. And much like the Vikings, it is very successful.
It is 10-2 on the season. Vikings vent line yesterday was kind of a mixed bag of emotions. People were mad about the defense. The offense kind of went away there. But again, they scored 27 points on one of the best defenses in the league. There's just so many things on both sides of the fence. So if you miss Vikings vent line, check that out. But every Monday we start with our hottest Vikings takes. Judd, you are the leadoff hitter.
All right.
Go ahead and set us ablaze here.
I thought of this during the course of the game yesterday, and it was actually used on Ventline, and I agree completely with this sentiment. And I think it qualifies as a hot take because it's going to put this man above all others. That is this. Kirk Cousins is the toughest quarterback right now in the National Football League.
Wow.
He doesn't run the most, but he is the toughest. He took a beating yesterday. Absolutely a beating from a good Jets team. He knew it was coming. He was far from perfect, but you know what he didn't do? He didn't miss a snap. He ran 11 yards for a first down and initiated contact with linebacker CJ Mosley and got up first. Kirk Cousins is in 78 potential games of meaning since joining the Vikings in 2018. Kirk Cousins has missed 2. One, the end of the year 2019 game against Chicago, because the Vikings seed was already clinched at that point, so there was no sense in playing him. And the other one was, I think it was the penultimate game last year against the Packers in Green Bay that he missed because of COVID. But he has, since 2018, and going back to his time in Washington, this guy, there's no question he's hurt at times, right? Like he's banged up. There's no doubt about that. But he doesn't miss games. He's tough as nails. And he gets up really quick from a lot of hits that it's my contention. A lot of guys wouldn't. Kirk Cousins is the toughest quarterback currently in the National Football League.
Yeah, he has taken, and he's also, throughout his career, he's become much better, I think, about, much like Peyton Manning was like this. I'm not comparing the two, but avoiding taking the big hit as well. He's done a lot of that throughout his career, but especially in that game against the Jets, and there's been other games, like you said, this year where he is standing in there. That throw against the Commanders defense down by 10 or whatever it was in the second half, and he's got to hit Justin Jefferson 40 yards down the field, and his ribs are about to get jammed through his lungs, you know?
Yeah.
And then he just kind of dusts himself off and gets back up, and he doesn't look like, he's not a Dante Culpepper imposing size guy. Of course, when we saw Kirk Cousins on the team playing with his shirt off, you were a little taken aback by how many ab muscles there were. Like, wait, is that an 8-pack? Are there 10?
This guy's in good shape. Yes, this guy is in very good shape for what, being 34 years old?
Yes.
Like,
and then,
right.
so to me, there's sort of two levels of quarterback toughness. There's just the ability to absorb football contact and hits and then not miss games. Mm-hmm. But then there's the ability to absorb those hits and pressure and everything and still stand in there and make the throws and hunt down the field like you need to. And I actually thought yesterday he was affected more in that regard yesterday than in some of the other games. So that's one little warning flag to put up, is it felt like he saw some ghosts and he was a little more skittish and certainly more inaccurate yesterday because of the pressure. And after the game, he even said, yeah, like the pressure early in the game threw me off. And even when it wasn't, get home pressure, I was definitely still, my footwork was bad and everything else. So even he commented on that. But generally speaking this year, not only has he not missed games, he has taken those hits, stood in there. Okay, I'm still going to go find Justin Jefferson down the field. So, yeah, it's probably the thing that you can hang your hat on the most with him, is that he's, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he is always available and always standing in there, ready to just get back up and call the next play.
Yeah, and it's when you played and started as many games as Kirk has, and you basically don't miss games, like you just look through the entire league. Quarterbacks ordinarily miss games. And so, yeah, the one thing is, since the day that you have signed him, you've never had to be concerned about, oh, here goes Kirk again. You're going to have to, play the backup for 8 games or 4 games. So it becomes, when it's coupled with a season like this, in which there is a degree of mental toughness and physical toughness that this team carries, it becomes more fun to watch because it's rewarding to the entire team. And that's the thing. It's not just a Kirk thing now. It's actually benefiting the entire team. And so when he introduced the contact with Mosley yesterday and just snapped right back up, I'm like, okay. I don't know that that's really smart, but it's still impressive.
And I know that you hate that stuff because it's risky and he could, miss a month with a broken collarbone or something. And I get that. But sometimes your team just needs to see you do stuff like that. And I actually thought it was it was like Kirk Cousins comes out in the second quarter and says, I'm going to run 13 yards for a first down and lay the wood to CJ Mosley and get right back up. And like I told you guys yesterday, the only thing I wanted on top of that was him to get up, pump his chest, give a big get the crowd into it. He didn't do that because he's modest or whatever, but I thought it was a great tone-setting play, which sometimes you need those in football.
The thing that actually concerns me the most, and it's becoming clear that I don't think these people care as much as they're supposed to, is the concussion spotter would actually force you to go get checked.
Well, I think the concussion spotter would have told Kirk Cousins to get checked. Kirk Cousins, he knows, is fine.
That's right.
He knows Kirk Cousins is never affected.
I'm becoming convinced that the Tua thing, which I thought was going to get guys taken out of games consistently, the league was like, nah, if the guy looks like he can't stand up, but if he's just a little bit dazed, just keep him going.
Yeah. Okay. My hottest Vikings take. And by the way, you can find your official Purple Daily Victory Monday hooded sweatshirts and t-shirts at scorenorth.com/shop. That's scorenorth.com/shop. We also have Mr. Fourth Quarter Comeback swag
I saw those.
We've got just general Purple Daily swag and the ever popular Just One Before I Die. Check them all out at scorenorth.com/shop. Hear me out on this hot take. I actually loved the Vikings' defensive performance yesterday. After sleep, that's my hot take. I'll frame it less as like
I'm hearing you out.
The Vikings played largely excellent defense yesterday. And you're going to say, well, what do you mean? Passing yards, this, and the second half, that. So I slept on this. Late last night, I was kind of going through some of my thoughts and going through the game and the play-by-play and everything again. So the first half was excellent. I think we can all agree there. If the game had ended at halftime, we would have said, wow, this was, they allowed like 3.5 yards of play in the first half. Exotic blitz looks early on from Donatel. They had corner blitzes, linebacker blitzes, zone blitzes, everything.
Football.
Kitchen sink thrown at Mike White. They were rotating edge rushers like hockey lines. All right, Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham, you guys are line 2. Za'Darius and Daniil Hunter, you guys are line 1. We're going to swap you out drive for drive, keep everyone fresh. Patrick Jones feasted, keep Za'Darius Smith a little bit healthier perhaps, right? So the first half defense was one of the best halves of defense the Vikings have played all season. We can all agree on that. Mike White for the game. He's like, well, look how many he threw for 300 some passing yards. Yeah, it took him 57 passes to get to. Of course, he threw for 350 yards. You give a guy 57 passes, he's going to throw for a lot of yards. Okay. Here are the two key things for me. The Vikings held the Jets to 19% on third down. 3 for 16 on third down, and they held the Jets to 1 for 6 in the red zone. And I know that you still have to pay the price for the chunk plays you give up, but there were 4 chunk plays that generated basically half of the Jets' offense, like 40% of the Jets' offense. 170 yards of the Jets' total for the game came on 4 plays, and they ran 83 plays. So, okay, you definitely have to clean up the chunk plays. I am not giving a free pass to Garrett Wilson running 60 yards down the sideline, whatever. But the other 79 plays for the Jets, 79 other plays, they averaged just under 4 yards per play, which would put you among the best defenses in the NFL in terms of yards. But the best defenses are around 4 to 4.3 yards per play. So to me, it was 4 bad chunk plays that they gave up that made, and I think all of them might have been in the second half too, that made you feel like it was a terrible defensive performance. Timely takeaways, great on third down. They did not break in the red zone. And it took 57 passes to get to the 350 yards or whatever it was going to take. So after thinking on it and sleeping on it, the Vikings' defensive performance was mostly really, really good yesterday.
I would tweak your statement to say situationally they were outstanding. You've got to do, if you want to be a real playoff.
But that's not a hot take, though.
If you got to be a playoff, if you want to be a successful team, though, I've got to see more between the 20s. Because the thing is, if you allow a quarterback that's not named Mike White, let's say it's a quarterback who's pretty damn good, to move between the 20s and get in the red zone, I'm guessing that you're not going to have the situational success that this team did. Because you're right, on third down, and once the Jets got inside the 20, they were absolutely outstanding. It just concerns me when you have teams moving so easily from basically, their own 25 to the 20, and now you get tougher. I would just like to see it shored up there. And I do wonder, and I'm curious if we'll see actual evidence of this, because it felt like the pressure that we saw in the first half dissipated or wasn't used as much. And I mean, that's an eye test thing for me, so I might be wrong. But if it is true, I wonder why you didn't stick with the formula. Now, O'Connell did say that the Jets made changes and tweaks and adjustments, But I mean, it's your job to then adjust to what they're doing as well. So I'm curious what the story of like the pressure is, because first half it felt, to your point, Phil, like they came up with a lot of good ideas, and it actually worked pretty well.
It also, again, this is total eye test, and we'll have to get some of the snap count data that comes out today. But it also felt like, okay, second half we're going to roll with Hunter and Za'Darius, and
yes,
I kind of liked. I know that you've got a couple primetime headline guys here, but I kind of like the idea of no, let's just run fresh legs out there, especially this late into a season with guys that have been hurt throughout the past few years. So they clearly took a look at some things during the self-scout week. And I agree with you. I am not calling them the 2000 Ravens or the 1985 Bears after what we saw yesterday, but that defensive performance was a lot better than it felt like at the end of the game. And I will add, the Vikings offense did no favors. They had one sustained long, and it was great. It was like a 75-yard touchdown drive to put a stamp on that game. But the rest, the Vikings offense had like 6 other possessions that went nowhere in the second half. Yep. So it would have been nice if you're the defense, don't give up 4 chunk plays. But if you're the offense, you could have just kind of ended that game with one more touchdown drive, and then it would have been a 2 or 3 score game the entire time, and it just wouldn't have felt that way. So, the defensive performance, if you can swallow those 4 chunk plays and fix those. Ed Donatel said last week, he's like, the chunk plays we're giving up are uncharacteristic. They're not really uncharacteristic.
Yeah, they happen.
It's definitely a characteristic to be dealt with. But 79 other plays, 4 yards per play, I would take that every single week for 17 games.
All right, my hottest, strongest take after yesterday's performance against the Jets. Credit where credit is due. So I'll say this, my hottest take, Greg Joseph was the best player on the field in the Vikings-Jets game yesterday. Greg Joseph.
I love this. This is going to be a victory lap for the ages.
Yes,
here,
it is. Boots a 51-yarder after the Vikings are able to force the Jets off the field after the start of the game. He gets that monkey off his back. He hits another big field goal towards the end of the first half. He hits all 3 of his extra points. He is perfect. He is money. How many times have we seen Greg Joseph maybe miss an extra point, then all of a sudden the Vikings are only up by 3 and the other team can go kick a field goal? No. He made all of his kicks. He did all the right things. You might say, hey, Declan, Greg Zuerlein actually had a better performance. For God's sakes, he hits a 60-yard field goal against the Vikings, and I think had like 4 or 5 field goals yesterday in general. Well, that's Robert Saleh not being aggressive enough in his own red zone and not trusting that Jets offense to go out and score. Greg Zuerlein, okay, he reaped some benefits. That's okay, but that's more of a coaching problem on the Jets, in my opinion. Greg Joseph went out there and was the most consistent player for the Vikings, and also just not even just on the Vikings. There's big players for the Jets yesterday. Garrett Wilson had a big day, 162 receiving yards. Greg Joseph was the biggest difference maker.
But Garrett Wilson didn't kick an extra point.
That's damn right. And that's not his job either. So Greg Joseph, the most important player and the best player on the field for the Vikings in their win over the Jets. Book it.
So we have now lowered the bar so much on Greg Joseph that we are basically celebrating his extra. He made extra points.
Yeah.
Let's go. Get the flag.
Wave the flag. Yeah. We're gonna wave it very slowly for this. I feel like it needs to be far more exciting for the victory itself, which we can wave it for eventually.
No comment, Judd, on the best player on the field yesterday, Greg the Leg Joseph. It was a battle of Greg the Legs yesterday.
Yeah.
Yet another 60-plus yarder made against the Vikings. It's now a record amount of 60-yarders.
The Zuerlein kick, man. I mean, these guys' legs now are incredible. But, good for Greg. I hope he continues to have success. It was interesting, and I tweeted this out, actually, because I don't think I've seen it before. But Greg Joseph was working on practice kicks after the coin toss. So as they're doing the coin toss, he's working on practice kicks. And then after the coin toss is done, like up until he kicked off because the Vikings won the kick or won the toss and deferred, he's working on. So good for him. I hope for the Vikings' sake, he's figured it out.
Okay, so did I see right that there have been 4 60-yard field goals made against the Vikings this year? I think I saw that correctly. It's
the Cowboys hit one. Will Lutz hit one against the Vikings in London.
Yep.
The Saints hit one. Yep.
So that would mean, because there's been now 30 60-yard field goals made all time. Because there's been 5 this year. I think 4 have come against the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
that means that in the history of the NFL, more than 10% of the 60-yard field goals all time have been kicked against the Vikings this season. And people call the Vikings lucky. I mean, I know that those 12 points, or maybe it's 3, but whatever it is, like it's not swaying the season, but that's ridiculous. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's just bad luck. So I will defend the Vikings in terms of, well, they're the luckiest 10-2 team ever. They're also getting 60-yard field goals made against them with regularity. So,
but that is also why, because there's going to be a time in the next, 5 years or so, where we no longer marvel at these, because these guys' legs are so big, and it's exactly why Greg Joseph has to be incredibly consistent from 50 plus. This is why, like, we can't celebrate his 51-yard field goal. We've got to make that the minimum standard. 50, we're going to get to a point in this league where 55-yard field goals will be seen like I saw a 35-yard field goal as a kid.
Well, we're kind of there. The league percentage is that these kickers are making 50-yarders at a like 2/3 rate or better.
Declan, apply that pressure on Greg.
Well, when you grew
Greg
up,
misses one more time, bang.
Kickers had the single bar face mask with a cigarette hanging out, and they were kicking. It was like your left guard was your kicker.
They had guts, man. That was the greatest ever. Big guts hanging over the pants. They just come out, boot the field goal straight on.
Yeah, because
like
wasn't the logic?
Get a beer and a smoke, head back.
It was like, find the biggest guy. Like, the biggest guy is going to be able to kick the ball further because he's going to have the most inertia behind it or something, you know?
Back in the day of Lou the Toe Groza.
The toe.
Lou the Toe Groza, because he kicked with us. See, that's what it was, man. Yes.
Amazing. All right, so those are your hottest, strongest Vikings takes. Give us yours in the YouTube comment section on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, or hit us up via Twitter, via the Score North app. There's a feedback tab there. Chef Declan has been cooking all night a pie chart of praise that we're going to get to here in just a brief moment. But anybody hit big on Underdog over the weekend?
I saw a lot of people sending me the slips going into the noon slate of games. I'm hoping some of them got a big payout for them on Underdog Fantasy, which is the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. And hey, by the way, fantasy football playoffs are starting very soon. And actually, when the NFL playoffs indeed start here in about a little over a month, they are also doing another big fantasy giveaway. So join that on Underdog Fantasy as well, with your chance to win over $100,000 in cash prizes. There's also still some great pick'em options. You can split out games, whether you're on the NFL, the NHL side, the NBA side. Join Underdog Fantasy with promo code SCORE, SKOR, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Go download the Underdog Fantasy app.
Our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company have been helping business owners for over 100 years. They're one of us, based in Owatonna, Minnesota, since 1904. They're basically having a great offensive line for your business, all about risk management, tools, resources. They measure their success by the success of your business. So just think of having a great, helpful, knowledgeable guiding hand with over 100 years of experience. You can find out more about the great work Federated does at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Let's get to a pie chart of praise here, gentlemen.
Now on Mackey and Judd.
You wanted better charts that you could see the fine print on.
The pie chart of praise.
You should be singing his praises.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, Chef Declan, it is your week for a pie chart here. How many slices are we looking at?
We're looking at a 5-piece pie chart here just for the victory over the Jets. Okay. Vinny tried it. I know you said I shouldn't feed my dog, but Vinny said he likes the pie. So it's okay. Vinny approved. It's me approved. So here's who we'll go. Here we go. We'll get 5 pieces of pie to start. Okay. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way up. 10%, the first chunk of pie, to Justin Jefferson. Just 10%. He was targeted a ton, 11 targets, 7 catches, 45 yards, catches a touchdown. This is still the amazing part of his game, where he has a 7-catch, 45-yard performance, which is still a pretty solid day, and he still made a solid impact for sure. But it wasn't the biggest of JJ games we've seen so far this season. They were still doing their absolute best to feed him a lot, but he scores a big touchdown. He's still a humongous difference maker when he's on the field. He does deserve some praise for the win. So a 10% chunk of pie to wide receiver Justin Jefferson to kick off this pie chart.
It is kind of amazing now. We're to the point where he catches 7 passes for 45 yards and a big touchdown. And we kind of think, this is just a little disappointing game from Jefferson.
Right.
He didn't really have a big game. 7 catches. So this would put him on pace for like 100. If he played 7-catch, 45-yard football the whole season, he'd be like a 100-catch receiver with a bunch of touchdowns. You're like, well, wasn't really a Justin Jefferson game.
The slice would be increased quite a bit if he hadn't dropped that ball in the second half. Now, that was not a great pass. He had to adjust, and the ball was behind him, and he tipped it and dropped it. But that being said, if that pass hits, we're talking about 8 catches, and, I mean, he might have gone a long way with that. So we're probably talking about a more Jefferson-like receiving yardage game on that one play.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Second piece of pie. I'm giving it to Dalvin Cook and the running game, but Dalvin Cook and the running game in this pie chart of praise. So a solid day rushing the football for the Vikings yesterday, 128 rushing yards. They had 2 obviously big rushing touchdowns that they were able to cash in on. Alex Madison, when he was called upon, played well. They got creative with Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor with some handoffs as well. I was a little surprised that they abandoned this as the game went on. It just seemed like they just gave up on the running game, which was being very effective for them throughout the course. But I think without that running game, and I mean, just look at Kirk's stat line too. He got beat up a lot, but an ugly day for him from a stats perspective, just 173 yards and a touchdown. I think the running game actually deserves more chunk of praise than what Kirk was able to do. And I'm a little confused why KLC abandoned it, but it definitely still deserves a chunk of praise. So the second piece of pie, Dalvin in the running game, 15% in my pie chart of praise. After
the game was over in the locker room, I don't know if you guys saw the whole 3-minute clip that the Vikings put out. And Dalvin got one of the game balls this was his 50th career, I believe, rushing touchdown. And KOC gave him one of the game balls, and he immediately turned it around and gave it to Garrett Bradbury to represent the offensive line. And he pointed and says, "This is you guys." That's how you treat your offensive line.
So statistically, if you go back and look, because we talked about this on Ventline yesterday, they actually, statistically, it was pretty evenly split on carries. I think it was situationally. So I think where we think that KOC decided to go away from the run game, because he didn't, if you look at the stats, but we still get to that third and short where he will insist on throwing a pass, and it's like, dude, you can run for 3 yards here. This was boosted by the fact that they handed off or pitched it to Cook in the end zone there towards the end to try and get a first down. But they didn't statistically get as far away from the run as it appeared at times. I think it was about even by half as far as the actual rushing attempts went.
It turned out, it was 35 passing attempts, 29 carries. Now, they did have if they had the 3 carries at the end where they were trying to run the clock out.
Yeah, that boosted it a little bit.
It still felt to me, I get the ratio wasn't too far off from what you would see, but just based on the way the passing game looked right out of the gate, and that secondary is no joke for the Jets. They do a good job, man. It's not hard for them to cover Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne, and they did a pretty damn good job on Justin Jefferson. So if you would have kind of laid that out for me and said, okay, how many passes in a game, by the way, in which you're going to be leading the majority of it by 2 touchdowns, how many passes should Kirk throw in a game like that? Pressure, secondary on these guys like glue. I would not have said 35. I would have said, how about 25, 26 passes? If you're going to get a lead like that in the first half, and they're going to be averaging 5 yards a carry, just jam the run down their throats.
Yep.
So they didn't do that as much as I would have preferred, but they won the game.
It's interesting. O'Connell is loath to go away from the pass, even at times when you think he definitely should.
Mm-hmm. And he's he's a smart guy. He's got reasons. He's generally deserves the benefit of the doubt.
And the one that worked well was the 4th down pass to KJ, because that was, I think, a 7-yard gain. It was 4th and 2, right? And they threw, and at first you're like, they're going to throw. It worked. So yeah, it's hard to decipher exactly what he's thinking at times, but I get your point, Dex, because it did seem like a game in which the run would have been the smartest play.
Also, when Darrisaw's out, we think in terms of pass protection, he's also one of the best run blocking offensive linemen in the league, and Ezra Cleveland's one of the best run blocking. So
Good point.
it's so much different. You would just run left. Hey, we need some yards, run left. And they did a few times. They had that pitch in the first half. But when Christian Darrisaw's out, it's just a little harder to just call a run to the left because you got a backup left tackle in the game.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, third chunk of pie for me. I touched on it in my hot take, but I think it also it goes in the entire special teams, and that's exactly what it is. 20% of the pie chart of praise to special teams for the Vikings. So obviously Greg the Leg being perfect was a big one for them. But also don't sleep on Ryan Wright here. So he had 6 punts, one that went 63 yards. He averaged 48 yards per boot. Special teams deserves a ton of credit here. So I'm going to give at least a chunk of pie to them. I think they deserve it. Matt Daniels has been a hell of a coach for them. Yes, Greg the Leg being perfect is a bar that we want to see all the time. But Ryan Wright's been a great punter for them. We don't really see these guys show up on the pie chart of praise. So 20% to special teams.
Ryan Wright I love that guy, man. He's just this kind of roly-poly.
Yeah, but that move surprised me, and it's been a great move. I mean, he's got a bomb for a leg.
Except for his shaky holds on extra points and 50-yard field goals. But it looks like that was corrected yesterday.
No kidding.
What if that is
Have we gotten to the bottom of that? Has he just been a bad holder on 50-yard field goals, or is it Greg Joseph's fault? I don't think anyone would tell us the real truth.
I think we need an ex-kicker to tell us who was
Longwell could tell us.
It's Ryan time. That's exactly right. All right.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, 2 pieces of pie left in this pie chart of praise. I'm going to give 25% to Kevin O'Connell. So this is a game where I think coaching makes a humongous difference, okay? So obviously they get off to a great lead in the first half. Looks like they're going to go on cruise control, but then things get dicey in the second half there, right? And I know you want to see Kirk have a little bit better performance in the second half, but I think under Mike Zimmer, the Vikings lose this game. They find a way to lose this game 100%. This is where coaching matters. I saw we were talking in a group chat the other day with my buddies with Justin Herbert. Like, why is Justin Herbert so bad? Like, they have all these great playmakers and the Chargers. Like, coaching does matter here. So I'm going to give 25% to Kevin O'Connell. He deserves it.
He's just the general tone that he sets, right? I think it's everything from the vibe that he sets down to some of the schematics, down to the game theory and the timeout preservation, and just he feels very much in control of this whole thing. Zimmer, the last few years, did not.
Because he is. And the thing that impresses me most is this team plays these cardiac kid type of games. They're ridiculously close. Like the Vikings did have a chance. If they had come out in the third quarter, they could have punched the Jets in the mouth and basically gone home, right? And so it looks like it's a disaster. It's like they're falling apart. But you know what? Look at their sideline. Look at the demeanor. They never look like they're falling apart. Like, it's this juxtaposition to me that's so intriguing. I love the fact that O'Connell, he might not love it, but he certainly does not say a bad word about the close games. Like, Zimmer would come in and be like, these games are too close, right? O'Connell's like, I love you guys. This is, and he always, the tinge is always, we can all do better. So, like, there are things to be learned. I will give you just quickly here to the biggest example, I think, in the Zimmer Vikings 2021 and this year. The Pittsburgh game last year, I think it was a Thursday night game at US Bank Stadium. It's the one where it was very similar in the sense that at the end of that game, the Pittsburgh tight end, Roethlisberger, threw the pass. The tight end had it. I think Harrison Smith broke it up. And Xavier Rhodes and I think like Chris Boyd started going crazy, like celebrating. Patrick Peterson and Harrison Smith stood there, looked at each other like, that's a disgusting win. Like, they walked off the field. I applauded it. I loved it. That team had nothing to celebrate. Yesterday, same type of thing, right? Probably too close, late in the game. Harrison Smith and Peterson are going nuts. Why? Because the mentality and the team come first, and that's what's important. So, yes, that game yesterday was far too close, but from every standpoint, including mine in the press box, I'm like, yeah, celebrate that. The Pittsburgh game, I was like, this season's just disgusting.
Well, but why? But why shouldn't they celebrate the Pittsburgh win? Is it just because
it was meaningless?
They're fighting for They were fighting for a playoff spot.
But the team itself was joyless. The game was joyless. Everything about it was just like, just do your job. Like, do your job. This team feels like it does its job.
it feels
I
like
love
everyone is
success.
pulling the same rope, to use
Yes.
a cliche.
Well,
That's
and
what it
if
feels
you-
like.
And if you aren't, you know what? Then buzz off. In Rhodes' mind, this was all about, me. And what I love right now is it's all about the team. That's a cliche, but a lot of sports cliches are absolutely true.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, what's
The Rock
your
knows how
final
you
slice
feel
here?
about pie.
All right, last chunk of pie. Bill touched on it. 30% red zone defense. Red zone defense. I mean, this is bending and not breaking at its absolute finest. And to be honest, I agree with that, Donatel. Yards don't matter to a degree. They don't matter to a degree if you can be really good in the red zone. I have additional statement on Mackey and Judd on this too. But, I mean, that red zone defense put the clamps down. You can give up those big chunk plays and not have the Jets get 6, and they were able to still stop them when they needed to. They forced a lot of field goals. So 30% to the red zone defense. So my final, or my pie chart as a whole, 100%, 10% to JJ, 15% to Dalvin Cook and the running game, 20% to special teams, 25% to Kevin O'Connell, and 30% to the red zone defense.
What's funny is that on the season, they're not even really that great of a red zone defense. It just kind of seems like they are. So after yesterday, they moved up to 20th in red zone defense percentage. So it's not like they're giving up all these yards, but they're the second best red zone defense. When you look at some of these defensive stats, it is hard to figure out how they're 10-2. But like yesterday, they held up when they needed to. And then offensively, they just kind of come alive for one drive in the second half when they need to. So I think the biggest question remains here as we're now getting into the second week of December. Is there another level this season to this team? Because it feels like there is, but we've been saying that since September, and we haven't seen the full version of this team yet. And at this point, we're almost getting so late in the year, I wonder, is there one? Is one just going to appear against the Colts or something, or the Lions? And there it is. There's the 40-17 victory that we've all kind of been waiting for.
That's why I really liked defensively what I saw in the first half, because I liked the ideas. I think they used Asamoah for like 4 snaps. I think that they used a 3 safety set with Metellus for like 2 or 3 snaps. The second half. So the one thing that I will say that benefited the Vikings is Mike White was coming off a great game against the Bears defense. Okay. So Mike White was not going to come here and replicate that. In the red zone where it gets loud, where defenses can do some different things, perhaps, I do think it benefited the Vikings greatly that Mike White was the QB here. Like if that was a veteran QB, if that had been like Dak, I don't think that it ends up being all field goals in the red zone. So yeah, that's fortunate, but I mean they still did, credit to them, hold the Jets to 3 for 16 on third down. So there were definitely good things. But as far as your question, Phil, are there different things that we can see? I would go to the first half defensively and say that's where I think steps were made. And there have been games where they have adjusted. I just don't know where those adjustments go at times. And just because the Jets adjust doesn't mean that you're screwed. You can readjust.
Yeah, amen.
Like the whole thing about, well, they're a good team and they adjusted. Okay, what's your counter? I mean, that's the big boy question, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, let's wrap the pie chart here because we still have to get to nitpicks. We got to get to what are you doing, guy?
The Rock knows
so there's
how you feel about
Declan's pie chart here. Let's get into just a round of nitpicks, and then we can get to. I have a what are you doing, guy, for you guys. I'll start with this one. We haven't really talked about Kirk Cousins much off yesterday, and I think we've given him a ton of due credit this year. He's been excellent fourth quarter, close games in the fourth quarter. But my nitpick from yesterday is he was not good. He was not accurate. Kirk O'Chains did show up for that second quarter drive in which he trucked C.J. Mosley, and he stood in there and threw a couple great passes, and that's awesome. But he's only played now maybe like 2 dominant complete games all year, and it's being masked by how great he's been in the fourth quarter close games. And that is awesome. And I think if we had to choose one or the other, you would say, well, I guess I'll take the clutch guy and just kind of figure out the rest of the game. But we're into December now, and he has not put together nearly enough complete games. So some criticism is warranted here. I guess that's my nitpick, is that I'm not hating on Kirk.
That's what
I
I'm
am
hearing.
properly tweaking and criticizing that, okay, it's awesome. Like, you've kind of mastered the fourth quarter thing more than you ever have, but the rest of the game matters as well. And there are times where you could just play a complete game and throttle a team as opposed to seeing ghosts or going away or whatever it may be. Or if Kirk Cousins could just go take a seat for a couple hours during a game, let Kirk go change, grab the wheel more often, that'd be great. Okay, if Scott Howard could go sit down and Teen Wolf could come back, we would appreciate that.
I can't wait for the playoff game when the marquee says Cousins versus Purdy. The Niners coming to town with Brock Purdy at quarterback. That's the matchup I want.
They took the Dolphins behind the woodshed with their third quarterback yesterday. The Niners, it doesn't even matter who plays for the Niners. Apparently their system and their defense and their weapons are good enough where literally any quarterback can come in and they'll just win like 11 games and make a deep playoff run.
O'Connell versus Shanahan. Cousins versus Shanahan, and Brock Purdy at quarterback. That could be interesting.
It'd be fun. It might happen. Yeah.
That could be interesting. All right.
My nitpick would be just go back to Kirk, but just the accuracy issue that I've seen him have all year. I mean, it's not the fact that he's seeing ghosts, he's taking licks, and look, that's tough. That's part of being a quarterback too. It's his inaccuracies that are really starting to alarm me. That this was a guy who's always been very, very accurate, and maybe sometimes we got fooled because he likes to check down a lot, so the completion percentage looks good. But even when you've watched him over the years, he's always been very accurate, and I think the inaccuracy this year is what's really concerned me and what it looks like of something that could be lingering through the rest of his career, because I just don't know how you just all of a sudden can't hit guys anymore. It's kind of mind-blowing to me.
So I've got a theory on that, because I've given this some thought, and it feels like it was a problem early in the season. It dissipated a little bit, and it was certainly back. The throw behind Jefferson that Jefferson dropped, and the throw that could have been a touchdown to Hawkinson, that was just an awful throw. Here's my theory. I think O'Connell, to a large degree, there are times where he gives in to Kirk and basically calls Kubiak plays, but it's not the entire game. He calls for Kirk to make some throws that Kirk does not like to make. Now, I don't think Kirk objects to those throws because he's petulant. I think he doesn't like those throws because those are throws that don't necessarily fit into his comfort zone. And Dex, I think what we're seeing at times is when O'Connell is running the game like he wants Kirk to do things that aren't necessarily Kirk things. And this was always my gripe about the stats. The stats were on basically Kirk's terms. I'm checking down. I'm doing what I'm being asked to do what I know I can do. Life is all about being challenged in things that go outside your comfort zone. And that's where, yes, you can screw up, but you also develop. And I think for a long time, especially here, Kirk was, as much as Zimmer might have been a jerk to Kirk, they coddled Kirk. And so it was like, okay, Kirk, if you want to check down, we'll check down. There was no, dude. We're going to have you make the big boy throw here. I think that deep, Kirk can make some great throws. I think the intermediate throws at times, so not a check down, but let's say it's a 15 to 20 yard throw. Those are the throws that go outside of Kirk's comfort zone. And to O'Connell's credit, he's not willing to just forfeit that and say, okay, you know what, Kirk,
yes,
make an 8 yard throw. So Dex, I think what we're seeing here is not like a newfound inaccuracy. I think it's for the first time a coach is telling Kirk, you need to do some of the things I want. And Kirk's doing it, but it doesn't always look as good or have the statistical success that Kirk had previously when Kirk was spoon-fed what Kirk wanted.
Yeah, I think, some of it, I mean, that throw to Hawkinson yesterday was just like a miss, regardless of system. But I think if you were to do a pie chart of blame for like the dip in completion percentage or accuracy percentage, some of it would be, okay, he is just missing some throws. Maybe it is because he's not like third year in an offensive system. And so he's still trying to, or even like with Hawkinson, he's still trying to get used to how Hawkinson runs routes. It's not like they spent May, June. Okay, how fast does this guy get out on this route? How much separation does he get? So I'll give him a pass on some of that. And I agree with what Judd's saying too, that on these intermediate throws, There's tighter windows in KOC. The mic'd up from last week, and I think it was a 36-yard reception it was a perfect pass. He threw it a little short of a safety coming over the top, but Jefferson broke through a double team bracket. That is the exact type of danger zone that Cousins does not even tempt in his first 4 years as a Viking. And that conversation played out publicly, respectfully, during training camp and OTAs, where, the media is asking Cousins about, hey, there were some misses there in practice today that we saw. Can you kind of talk us through that? And he said, well, and you guys had a conversation off to the side, you and Kevin O'Connell, and he would say, well, yeah, there are some throws where I would just, in my career, I would move off that read. And he didn't get too specific, but he's moving off the read because it's not open, right? In his mind, it's not open. And KOC is saying, no, don't move off that. Do not move off that read. That is open, and you're good enough to make that throw, and people like you. And
You're right, yes.
But if you're going to be throwing passes into some of those tighter windows with a new scheme,
yes,
and it's a little uncomfortable for you, your interceptions are going to go up. Your completion percentage might go down. But you hope that the net at the end of the day is that aggressiveness is going to be more points for your team, a big first down in a big moment, keep the chains moving, that you're going to sacrifice some completion percentage, maybe some interceptions to get more offensive output on the other side.
Yes. And Kirk likes to, we know this. I don't think Kirk likes to throw guys open. Like, Kirk wants you where the ball, Kirk wants you to be there without assuming. And so the anticipatory throws that lots of guys make, Kirk can probably make him. I don't think he likes to. Case in point, the Jefferson ball was behind Justin. Why? Because Justin's going to a place where the ball should be. Kirk's throwing the ball where he thinks it should be. Ideally, that ball's out front, right? But if it's out front, Jefferson's not there yet. And so you've got to have faith that he's going to catch it. It's not going to be picked. So, yeah, I think that there's just a lot of things here that Kirk is probably being challenged to do that don't get talked about, that create this sort of alarming thing of, oh, that's a bad pass.
Yeah, and you think about it, if you just kind of look at his whole season now, or 12 games in, and after yesterday's games, he ranks 20th in QBR. He ranks 21st in passer rating. These are some of the worst ranks of his career. I think they are the worst ranks of his career.
Yep.
He is 28th in yards per attempt. I think he's like 18th in expected points added. But if you then look at some of these same statistics and go some of the advanced, if you just look at like fourth quarter close games or fourth quarter in general, he's been excellent. And I want all of it. I want him to just be awesome. Let's see the full version of Kirk in this offense. And we haven't seen that yet. But what it shows you is if you can stay aggressive and if you can rise up, maybe you haven't been great in the first quarter or third quarter, but if you can rise up when it's most important, it's going to result in team wins. So this is such an interesting lesson. It's like overall, he's not as good, but he's been excellent in high leverage situations, and they're 10-2. Huh. Who knew? Judd, you have a nitpick for us?
Yes. Dex just sent us a note. So Dex, if you'd like to go, you certainly
BRB.
Can. No, it's no problem. It's no problem. I've been there myself quite a few times.
I gotta go.
I gotta go. No,
I gotta go.
No, I gotta go. I don't love this. All right.
That's poor pregame planning right there.
Yeah, it is, because I was
spicy food late at night.
Yeah, no, I had told. Yep, I had the same thing, and I told Dawn, you got to get out of here right now because I got to start the show, and before I start the show, I got to go.
He asked us for permission.
Well, he wanted us to know why he was disappearing from the show. I actually don't blame him one bit. He was like, "Here, I'm going to disappear from the show." BRB. Yeah. So I do have I have a nitpick, but it goes well beyond the Vikings. And that's this. In a year in which we've been through the Tua thing, where he obviously came back prematurely and was concussed a second time, and it looked just awful. Darisaw was probably cleared too quickly. The Caleb Evans thing yesterday really bugged me. So he's coming off a concussion. He did sit out more time, which was a good thing. But he collides friendly fire with Harrison Smith and just gets blown up, right? And it's clear he's off. Like it's, he sort of gets up and they bring him to the sideline. I think they take him into the tent and they clear him to return.
Mm-hmm.
He returns. On the play, if you go back and watch this, on the play in which one of the Jets' big chunk plays, passing yards, the play where the receiver stepped out of bounds around like the 8 or something, right? Watch that play again and watch Evans as a central figure in the reception, the initial reception, and he almost looks confused. Like something's up and you can see it. And sure enough, after that series, they bring him off again and they check him out and they take him back. And then they announce we're going to evaluate him for a concussion and he does not return.
No.
This is ridiculous. And this is not an O'Connell thing. This is not even a Vikings doctor thing. This is a league-wide thing. A Caleb Evans flat out, and I'm not a doctor, but I can say this with complete confidence, should never have been allowed to return to that game coming off a concussion when he collides with Smith. And the league needs to figure this out. Like, it's unfair to be like, well, O'Connell shouldn't have okayed that. He's the coach of the game. He's got 1,000 things, right?
Yeah.
Like, if a guy's cleared, you're like, okay, go back in. But the league, this is just embarrassing now. Like,
I could have told you when he was laying on the ground after that play.
He's done.
You could literally see the stars above his head. Like,
yes,
his eyes looked glazed on the replay on TV.
Correct. And
he's
it's a
just
second
back
concussion.
out there. Okay, all right.
But I mean, why? It's a second concussion. We know that a person with a concussion is predisposed to get another concussion if they go back to a contact sport soon. And there's all of this like, well, the league has to do this and do that, and the Tua thing will solve this. And nothing's solved.
Yeah.
So,
no, it was tough. It was tough. It was tough to watch that. And I get it. It's like it's a sport where the players are like a Caleb Evans isn't asking out and he wants to go back in.
And he tweeted last night, I'm fine. Dude, you're not fine.
Tua wants to go back in. So it's hard. You're trying to tell these guys and you're not. You're doing it like on the fly in a tent. You're going into a blue tent in the middle of a stadium. It's like it's weird. So we'll get to what are you doing, guy, in a second here. But if you're looking for a fun date idea, speaking from experience, old Macadac and Mrs. Macadac have had a couple good times at the Chanhassen Dinner Theaters in our lifetimes, Judd.
That is right. And Phil, the idea is this. It is the perfect gift. But, gift cards at times, the gal might be like, oh, it's a gift card. You didn't give it much thought. But this is because Phil just said this, and he's exactly right. These gift cards are a ticket to date night. So it's a commitment too, but here's the thing. It's great fun because it lets you pick what you want to see, and there is something for everyone. A big splashy musical on stage. I know Macadac loves like Footloose or Jersey Boys, right? You got that. You got a concert series that has tribute concerts, everything from Fleetwood Mac to Sinatra to Patsy Cline, or the comedy improv show with Stevie Ray's is a blast as well. Great steak and prime rib or the famous chicken chan. So enjoy a show, enjoy a great meal. And it's this simple. You could either call 952-934-1525 or go to chanhassendt.com, chanhassendt.com, or stop by actually and pick up the gift cards there. Chanhassen Dinner Theaters, your ticket to a great night and a great gift, chanhassendt.com.
And speaking of this time of year, a lot of people just kind of concede, well, I'll just get right. I'll change my life in January. Well, this is actually a good time to get on Olivia plan and get momentum. You could be on like week 5 of your momentum by the time everyone else is just like going to the gym on January 2nd or something,
Imagine January 1st arrives and you're already down, let's say 10 pounds gone. And that is the key here is not just that the weight disappears, but you will keep the weight off too. So that's the great part. And right now, save 50%. It's the best offer of the year. Save 50%. Get started now. And as Phil said, by January 1st, you're going to be on a roll. By March, you're going to have clothes fitting right and left that you thought wouldn't fit. Again, 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com. Livia Weight Control Centers. Livia.com is your ticket, not just a weight loss, but sustaining that because their dietitians are great. And the last thing, if you're in Florida, California, if you're a PD fan elsewhere, virtual visits available as well. So you don't even need to be in state. Livia.com is where you start.
All right. It's time for What Are You Doing, Guy, here
Football.
on Mackey and Judd, Purple Daily. I just saw Baker Mayfield got released this morning by the Panthers.
No.
Totally. That could be the What Are You Doing, Guy.
Really?
Yeah. He just released his ass. He sucks. And he's a bad leader, locker room guy. So it was a mutual agreement, according to Jeremy Fowler, ESPN. As Mayfield asked for his release, the Panthers honored it. He just wasn't in their plans going forward. I don't think he will be in many.
There's a lot of
plans.
guys. There's a lot of guys on that team not in their plans.
Although, just saw this note from Mike Clay. This is total speculation. Mike Clay, analytics guy from ESPN, says, "Let me be the first to suggest Baker Mayfield to the 49ers."
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, Garoppolo's done.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is done.
If
Is
there's
Brock
one
Purdy
coach
really gonna be the
that
guy?
could, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if there's one coach that could just probably extend Baker's career, it might be Shanahan. But all right, after the game yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, but Jets cornerback DJ Reed. So
Yes, I did.
he's the other really good cornerback that they have.
Yep.
He told reporters that he was happy with the way he played against Justin Jefferson, but used a little colorful language here. He said, quote, "I was in his bleep all game. He got the one route on me, so I'm frustrated, but I felt like I did a great job containing him. Other than that touchdown, I held my own for sure against him."
Yep.
To which I would say, all right, he definitely didn't have an explosive game, but he caught 7 passes and the aforementioned touchdown. Can you really say that you were in his bleep all game and that you did a good job, but also in the same breath be like, but we lost and there was that touchdown that he burned us on? What are we doing, guy? I don't know if this is the time to be trash talking and thumping your chest after a loss in a game in which Jefferson caught 7 passes for a touchdown. You ultimately you didn't do a good enough job. So just calm down.
And I did see on Twitter last night that JJ clapped back as well. And
He did. He said, "Yeah, get back to me when your coach feels comfortable with you going one-on-one against me or whatever." Yeah.
Yes. And so Sauce didn't follow JJ, so that matchup, I mean, it happened occasionally, but it didn't turn into a full-time thing, which I was sort of hoping for. But yeah, I would if my team lost, I gave up a touchdown that turned out to be absolutely key, and the guy caught 7 passes. I'm probably just going to be like, yeah, we did a decent job.
It's fine. Yeah, whatever.
How about that?
Now,
we did a decent job.
You guys did put the clamps on Adam Thielen because he only caught 2 passes. So congratulations. You definitely put the clamps on Adam Thielen. And Johnny Munt only caught 1.
It was a big catch, though.
It was. It was a
Munt
third down, I
season
want to
is
say.
still
No,
a
it was a
thing.
first down. Yeah, that was good.
Munt season is still going.
How we doing there, Declan?
Yeah, speaking of clamps are good. We're good. We're all good. We are all good. Yep.
Everything okay? Everything
Everything is
along?
everything outside. I saw Dave Bessler, had a nice conversation with him, talking about the Vikings game.
Before or after?
After. Thank God.
Okay, because if that happens with our CFO before and you're
Nope.
like,
bending not break. Yeah, I agree. If they can just stop him in the red zone, then I think we're okay, and might be in the red zone right now, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to break down at some point the pregame preparation here.
We can just break down what just transpired either right now or at another date, because it is worth discussing. It is worth discussing.
Well, what's the executive summary of what happened here? Was it a spicy food?
No,
last night?
It wasn't spicy food. I picked up the gal from the airport late last night, and we got fast food, which I don't do a lot of fast food. I really don't. But I'll be completely honest when I say that was the biggest buzzer beater of my entire life. My legs started to cramp.
I've had that happen.
And thank God we can't really, we don't have great lighting here. I started sweating. What just transpired about 10 minutes ago, up to the last possible second where I was going to tough this out. There was no option to tough it out anymore. There was no option.
At what point during the episode was it? At what point during the episode were you looking at the clock thinking, "Oh man"? Was it during pie charts?
And believe me, I have been in this realm before. Where okay, when are we got here? Okay, no, I can do this. It was around your hot take that I realized this is going to be right down to the wire if this is going to go.
So you grinded your pie chart.
The Rock knows how you feel
Yeah, I don't know
about
what the
pie.
time was, and granted, we always pontificate between slices, but that was I was trying to go as quickly as possible to get to nitpicks, and then we were just talking about Kirk inaccuracies for like 7 minutes. Like, okay, I gotta go. This is I thought we were gonna move on quicker. I gotta go. We gotta go. I gotta go.
Yeah, this happened. This did happen like 10 years ago on the old Royce and Mackey radio show, and we. There's a very formatted radio clock. It's 1500 ESPN, 10 years ago. And we had a segment every day at 1 o'clock. And it was from 1 o'clock until like 1:24. It was like a 24-minute segment. And it was called Cram Session. And we would ask these questions and kind of go back and forth. And it was like around the horn kind of a thing. And we're like 12 minutes into a 24-minute segment, and Pat is just like giving super short answers and rushing it. And we're like, why are you being weird? He goes, I gotta go. And we're like, no, he goes, we gotta go. And I said, no, we have like 10 minutes left in this segment, man. We need to stretch is what we need to do. He goes, no, I gotta go. I gotta go. And we're like, what? And he's got up and left. All right. So there you have it.
I'm glad.
I'll tell you, those buzzer beaters are tough. I've had a couple of those in my life. One being downtown Chicago at about 2 o'clock in the morning after a round of buffalo wings and tater tots from Mother Hubbard's after the Francisco Liriano no-hitter. I was covering that as a beat writer. And, oh boy, old Macadac was in the elevator, like, panicking up to his hotel room.
I'm chronologically the oldest guy on this show, but as far as stomachs go,
you have the best.
I might have the best stomach.
Yeah,
I think you probably do. Yep,
the best constitution. I work with like two 75-year-olds as far as stomachs go.
Yeah, we gotta be careful.
Stomach. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, one of you eats spicy foods despite your problems, so.
And it's worth it every single time. All right, there it is. Purple Daily. Daily bathroom emergencies, daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before Declan's internal clock goes off. That's what we want. We will see you guys tomorrow.